Halving knife crime is a measure that every member of this House would subscribe to. It's a devastating crime with devastating consequences. Only yesterday, this House discussed the tragic events in Southport and the impact that this can have on a community. This event is, unfortunately, representative of a much broader problem whereby too many people view it as appropriate to carry and use a knife criminally. This is horrific and must be stopped. Therefore, we owe it to the country, and particularly those in communities affected by knife crime, to take knives off our streets and prosecute those who believe using weapons is acceptable. Unfortunately, since the election, we've seen that knife-enabled crime recorded by the police has increased. In addition, we must acknowledge that based on the data up to September 25, 30% of all knife offences took place in London, despite London making up only 15% of the population. Therefore, we need proposals that recognise the geographical nature of this crime, with so much of it occurring in particular areas. As such, it's welcome to see the government's plan includes the Knife Crime Concentrations Fund to support surges in policing where knife crime is most prevalent. However, I'm afraid that the proposals put forward by the Labour government will not be sufficient without two critical foundations: powers for officers to stop and search individuals, and sufficient officer numbers to put this strategy into effect. The hotspot policing outlined by the government must be used in conjunction with effective stop and search, which the government strategy acknowledges is broadly supported by the public. It's why we've set out plans to triple the use of stop and search and to use Section 60 suspicionless stop and search in high crime areas. This should be supported by changes so that a single suspicion indicator is enough to merit a stop and search. This will be supported by 10,000 new officers. In contrast, the government has presided over a decrease in officer numbers, with 1,300 fewer officers during its time in power, with particularly steep falls in the Metropolitan Police, where this crime is most prevalent. In the government's plan, they talk about the need for officers, but this is not reflected in the overall figures, as police forces across the country highlighted during discussions on police funding. If we want to see the police help achieve these reductions and for the government to meet its targets, there cannot be fewer of them. In addition, under proposals introduced in the Sentencing Act 2026, many of those convicted for knife crime will be eligible for an earlier release than under previous rules. There are many important areas covered by the strategy, but there are fewer references to sentencing perpetrators of knife crime for longer. It's pitiful that those convicted of knife crime offences who would previously have gone to prison could now avoid it. This is unsurprising, as it took extensive effort from members on this side of the House and those in the other place to increase knife crime sentences in the Crime and Policing Bill. The Labour Party repeatedly speaks strongly, but it fails to back this up with the necessary custodial sentences. The government statement today and its strategy set out a number of important proposals and rightly recognise the importance of education and culture, building on work conducted by the previous government on violence reduction units and the County Lines programme. However, this must be supported by stronger enforcement, ensuring that those who commit these crimes are imprisoned with appropriate custodial sentences. Knife crime is truly horrific, and we owe it to everyone to give the police every power necessary to investigate and seize these weapons. I worry that without stronger enforcement, this plan will not be the significant moment the government believes it will be.
Minister.
Can I thank the spokesman from the Conservative Party for welcoming this target that we have in terms of halving knife crime, and for welcoming its content and the Knife Crime Concentration Fund in particular. I do appreciate that, and I think where we can, we should try and work cross-party on tackling such heinous crimes. I would just say a couple of points to some of his concerns. He raises the question of sentencing, it will always, Madam Deputy Speaker, be the case that people found guilty of serious knife crime offences will go to prison. That is not changing. We are making a couple of changes which hopefully will be in the direction that he would support. Just to give one example, currently around 1,000 children a year are found in possession of a knife, and there is no action taken whatsoever in terms of trying to get them away from that activity, none whatsoever. We have changed the law on that, the rules on that, so that every single child who is found in possession of a knife will have a programme which will ensure that they are given the support, given the interventions that they need to move them away from crime, and if they don't adhere to those conditions, then they will become it will become a criminal matter if necessary. So there is a big gap that we are filling there. We are also introducing in the bill that is currently going through Parliament that we're debating this afternoon a new offence of knife possession with intent, which doesn't exist at the moment. You have possession of a knife, possession involving a threat to life, but there is no offence of possession with intent, which we are introducing, and there will be a 7-year maximum sentence for that crime. So I hope that will reassure the honourable gentleman. We could get into a debate about numbers. I don't want to do that today because we have done it many times before, and I'm sure we will do it many times coming, but just to reiterate the point that there are at the moment 12,000 officers in our country who are sitting behind desks. We don't think that's right. We want to get them out into our communities. There has been an 18% increase in the police that we have in our neighbourhoods in the last year, and we want those officers to also be doing the job that we want them to be doing, not wasting time on bureaucracy, and so we are investing hugely in AI and new technology, which is going to free up the equivalent of 3,000 full-time officers just from the tech that we can give them that they should have had previously that will help them do their job. So we are pushing as hard as we can, not on exact numbers of officers, but on outcomes. And I will end with a statistic which I'm very pleased about, which shows that we are moving in the right direction, which I said in my statement, which is that knife crime is down 8% overall, and that knife murders are down 27%. We are focusing on outcomes, not police numbers. Thank you.